Today's show is sponsored by the ABV Barrel Shop. The ABV Barrel Shop is located in the St. Louis metro community of Arnold, Missouri. The ABV Barrel Shop is focused on one thing: single barrels. Best of all, you can try before you buy. Head over to abvbarrelshop.com to sign up for their email and text distribution so you know what they have in stock, what classes are coming up, and who from the industry may be coming in to visit. The ABV Barrel Shop. It's where single barrels live. We are also sponsored by the Bar to Go. The Bar to Go offers traveling minibars that are no bigger than a small purse or toiletry bag. Best of all, they are fully customizable so you can create the perfect piece that is unique for you. If you own your own business, what a fun and unique way to promote what you do. Check them out online at thebar2go.com. That is the number 2 in the Bar to Go. If you have wholesale questions, call my friend Isabel Clark at 504-481-1297. Finally, we are sponsored by the Neely Family Distillery. NFD is a family-owned business that keeps ringing up awards in the spirits world. Head to Sparta, Kentucky to experience the family history, award-winning spirits, and meet the Neely family. Check them out online at neelyfamilydistillery.com. Now, on to the show. Hey, this is Steve coming to you from sunny Florida, and once again we have a best of the Bourbon Daily. This is an interview that we did with Jeff Ruby, owner of Jeff Ruby Steakhouse, Louisville, Kentucky. They're in some other places as well. You can look that up online if you like. But I've dined in the Louisville, Kentucky location a couple times. Excellent food, impeccable service, and just a great time. The ambiance is incredible, so check it out. Jeff Ruby Steakhouse. This is a great interview with the man himself.
Let's drink!
Welcome to the Bourbon Daily, the podcast about everything bourbon delivered to you Monday through Friday every week. Today on the show, we are kicking off a special week highlighting some great bourbon bars and restaurants in Louisville by talking with Jeff Ruby, owner of the Precinct and Carlo and Johnny restaurants in Cincinnati, as well as Jeff Ruby Steakhouses in Cincinnati, Columbus, Louisville, Lexington, and Nashville. My name is Steve Akeley. Please join me in welcoming my co-host Jeremy Schell, along with our special guest, Mr. Jeff Ruby. Hey, Mr. Ruby, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Absolutely. So we're excited to talk to you today about your businesses. And of course, they're known for their atmosphere, impeccable service, and high quality food. But they're also known for you. You're quite a personality, and we'd like to start out by kind of getting to know you a little bit on a personal basis. So if you don't mind, tell us about yourself.
Well, how far back do you want to go?
Oh, we can go to the beginning. This is we're open-ended here.
Well, everyone, I think, is a reflection of their childhood, and how they were raised and their circumstances and the conditions which they grew up in. And so, I mean, I got a biography called Not Counting Tomorrow, which was co-authored by an author that's only, before me, had only done authorized biographies of Hollywood legends. I mean, the real legends that are listed in the American Film Institute as legends. But he read my chapters, which were all, every chapter was a song title. So it's the soundtrack of my life. And Rick Dees actually brought him to me. Rick Dees saw I was doing a book, and he knew the guy. So anyway, I said, well, he'll never do my book. I'm not a celebrity or a Hollywood legend or anything like it. But he came out, he read, I sent him the 11 chapters I'd written, and then he said, I want to do this story there. This is a story. So, and then it came out. We spent a few years on it, actually, because I'm busy working and I couldn't give him a lot of time. But he did all the legwork, and I guess it starts with Born to Run by
Bruce Springsteen. Yeah.
And who's from the same really hometown as Asbury Park, where he played and where he practiced. Practiced at the upstage was a block from my mother's restaurant I grew up in Asbury Park, the Press Box. But when I was born, my father realized he wasn't my father because, and my mother and him had another kid, and he was about 6 years old. But when I was born in Blue Eyes, he knew that this wasn't his kid, and he left.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was born to run, because when that happened, everything else, was like a domino effect. It evolved into she was married 4 times. I called them my forefathers. and I never understood why he wanted, he never stayed in touch with me. I ran away from home when I was 15. I hopped on a Good Humor ice cream truck. It was white, little tiny suitcase. I packed it up with everything, clothes and whatever I had, and hopped out of the bedroom window of Neptune, New Jersey, and hopped on a Good Humor truck. There was a little taped decal on there said "No Riders." Peeled that off and put it up my white suitcase. And he gave me a ride from the subdivision I lived in to Route 33, and then I walked down Route 33 to Route 35, and eventually all the way down to Asbury Park, and checked into the YMCA by first night. And then I slept the next day for many days under the Asbury Park boardwalk, just on the sand under the boardwalk. And then I would walk to school from there, which was about 5 miles from Neptune. So my life, it started that way, and it evolved into to who I am, just like anyone else. What you were like as a child, you get better.
Right.
You can be changed. You need direction. You need encouragement. You need guidance. You need love. Well, I didn't have anything, and my mother loved me, but we couldn't get along, just like she couldn't get along with 4 husbands. And so, back when I ran away, there was a street called Brockton. I said, well, I don't want my mother finding me, so I'm going to check into this YMCA and tell them my name is Larry Brockton. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then eventually I got a rooming house in Ocean Grove, right on the ocean. A friend of mine from high school, her dad owned these rooming houses, and a great guy. And so I stayed there, paid $8 a week, and there was old people lived there, really old people, and there was a bathroom down the hall, and they all shared the bathroom. And the landlord, or the gal running the things, she had a nice first floor, apartment. And that's how I lived all through high school. And then it turns out I didn't need to change my name. I didn't legally. I just started calling when I went to that rooming house. I said, the lady said, "What's your name?" I said, "Larry Brockton." Okay, because my mother was, a very good detective, and I didn't want her finding me calling around. And so it turns out she didn't want me back anyway, so I didn't need this. She wasn't looking for me, so it didn't matter. So when I went to school, I was Jeff Ruby, but and then I became pretty successful my senior year, I ran away from home when I was 15. My freshman year, I was an F student. My senior year, I was straight A's student. My freshman year in football, I was the last kid to get a jersey. Well, in fact, there was one jersey left and 2 kids fighting for that last spot, and he and I had to literally fight it out, and I got the jersey. So I made the team, but I sat on the bench the whole year. My senior year, I was captain of an undefeated team, was first team All-State, and linebacker and guard. And it was a big school, 1,800 kids, half white, half black, and 1 Jew. And I was the Jew. So I knew what it was like to be a minority. And to this day, there's anti-Semitism. It's it doesn't get talked about, but, in fact, before I left, I was still living at home. I'd have inner city black kids. They were ones I just befriended, and I had an all-white neighborhood. And all the kids my age that knew me called me the N-word lover, Mm-hmm. And I remember having, Gus Pops Lane and Ricky Freeman at my house eating my leftover birthday cake, bar mitzvah cake. And that whole neighborhood is black now because I've been back to it, but it was all white then. And that's who I was. I was never a Me Too kid. I was always different, you know. And so I go my senior year, and you know, I wind up being you know, the best player on the football team and going undefeated football. It was 18, a big school. My sophomore year, I go after wrestling. I don't win a match. My senior year, I don't lose a match. So my whole life in high school, and those are the key years. And that's what I've done for other kids, because you know, the man that touched my life was my football coach. He then became someone, first time in my life I ever want to make proud. I had nobody I wanted to make proud of. And he was the first person, you know, and I just wanted to be like him.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I started working hard, lifting weights, doing better in school, and set a goal. I was a loser and loving every minute of it. But I wanted, you know, then my senior year, I get a call from my brother. And my brother, who was 6 years older than me, had always lived with his dad, and I always lived with my mother. So I didn't get to see him much. We didn't live nearby, still in New Jersey, but I didn't see him that often. But I loved him as my big brother. So he calls me. He says, I need to talk to you. He's now at Monmouth College, where Bon Jovi lives, who later is in my book too, for the song Runaway.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I ran away. In fact, Bon Jovi came to one of my restaurants. We had dinner together, and it was good meeting him. And he, so I take my little. By then, I had a little Honda 50 motor scooter that my coach, Jeep and Nick, went and helped pick out and negotiate with the salesman. So I take that all the way to West Long Branch. And Wayne, my brother, wanted to tell me Louis Kranz. I was born Brian Jeffrey Kranz. He said, Louis Kranz isn't your dad. And which he said, when you were born, the crap hit the fan because you had blue eyes. So he tells me that story, and that's why Louis Kranz never, you know, stayed in my life and cared about me. The other stepfathers really didn't either. So now she tells me who my real father is. My biological father is Louis Weiss, who my mother worked as a paralegal for. He was an attorney, a very big attorney in North New Jersey, and that's who your real father is. And I just, that's how I heard about it. Louis Weiss was still alive. I'm, you know, living on my, you know, rubbing nickels together. I never called Louis Weiss to say, hey, I'm your son. Why don't you, you know, send me some money or something? I never. I just wanted to be self-reliant. I wanted to feel part of him. And back to his dying day, he denied it. And then a few years ago, I met one of my half-brothers. He had two sons. Well, the one I met came all the way to Cincinnati to meet me, and he was much older than me. He has since passed away. He was director of psychiatry at the Harvard School of Medicine. This is my brother. He was the director at the medical school at Harvard.
Uh-huh.
The other one was a doctor. And he said, Jeff, Dad would have been more proud of you than any of us. You turned out the best, and you look more like him than we did. We knew you were, you know, you were our brother and his son, but he would deny it, you know, because back then, you know, it was taboo, and he was married and he's a lawyer and all that. So that's how I grew up. And that defined later who I was going to be and what I was going to do for other kids.
Absolutely. Yeah, but one of the most amazing things to me in your story is the fact that a runaway, but you still went to school. You know, when I think of someone running away from home, I think most of them, they're leaving school as well. They're leaving their whole life behind, but you still went to school.
Oh, you know what's funny? They shot the Gotti film at my restaurant, a lot of it. And John Travolta plays Gotti. So Travolta comes in the afternoon. We're just all talking. We meet, and we just took a real liking to each other. We're both from New Jersey, and in fact, John Gotti came in and hands me his book. So I gave him my biography. So we have exchanged biographies, and we still stay in touch. But so I said, well, you're from Englewood, New Jersey? Yeah. And turns out he ran away from home at 15. I ran away from home at 15. I'm older than him. And he decides he's going to go to Manhattan and try to be an actor. So he dropped out of school. I said, geez, I thought I had it rough. I stayed in school. And this was the 60s for me, which was the worst decade in American history. And it was acid, it was LSD, it was revolution, it was the counterculture, it was total, Vietnam, and everybody. It was the decade that it gets most of the documentaries on TV. And that's when I grew up and ran away and lived by myself. I could have wound up, a junkie, a drug addict, or whatever, because I had nobody to tell me yes or no, or do this or don't do that. I was just on my own. I had that football coach for a father figure, though, but I didn't live with him. Well, Travolta goes out and just bolts and quits school. And look how he turned out, and just said, I'm going to be an actor. And he supported himself. And so it was similar. Like you said, most kids, including John Travolta, say, well, the hell with this son. But he had a goal. He had a mission. And I really didn't have a mission. I just, until I decided, I grew up in the restaurant business. And I was hanging out at my mother's restaurants, my stepfather's restaurants, but they were all, he had died. They were dives. They were hot, but great. The best hot dogs in America, and it was the one. And Sid's, and he was the third husband. And so I worked in kitchens and started hanging out in restaurants from about 6 years old. I fired at my first chef when I was 13 at my mother's restaurant. And I was in 7th grade, and there was a phone booth in the hallway. We didn't have cell phones back then, thank God. And I said, can I go to the bathroom? He said, yeah. Well, I didn't have to go to the bathroom. I went to the payphone, and I called the restaurant, see how things are going. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning. I said, there's no chef, your mother's homesick, and we don't know. And we're open for lunch. I never returned to that class. I just ran 4.8 miles. Plus, when I did my biography, we measured it when we were back to Jersey, how long. One road, but through 4 towns: Asbury Park, Allenhurst, Deal, and whatever, and Neptune. But I ran to the restaurant, and I knew how to cook, but I'd never cooked soup or made anything like that from scratch. I was a short order cook. So I get a cookbook out. I said, I'm going to make split pea soup. And it was a tiny kitchen, and so I start on that, and I go back to the front kitchen where the food comes out of when you're open, and the back was the prep kitchen, and I see there's this guy. I said, who are you? He says, I'm the new chef. The employment department sent me down there, so he said you needed a chef, so I'm your new chef. I was, oh great, that's great. So I had started that split pea soup, and then I went up front and I was slicing onions, and I'm stripping the membrane off of skirt steaks and getting everything ready for lunch. And I come back and my soup went from green to chartreuse. I said, what the hell happened to this soup? It was, it looked like split pea soup. Now it looks like it looks like the color of the OxyClean bottle with that yellow green or whatever. And he said, well, I put milk in it. I said, the recipe doesn't call for milk. He said, well, I put milk in it because that's how I make my split pea soup. I said, well, that isn't your split pea soup, dude. That's my split pea soup. He said, well, I'm the chef. I said, F you, you're not the chef, you're fired. My mother owns this restaurant. She's homesick. I'm in charge, you're fired. And he left. And I ran down the street. There was a really nice pharmacy that had food and had different convenience and whatever, and I looked. I found a bottle of green food color. I came back and I dumped a little tiny bottle of green back into that thing to bring it back to green, and that was my the first chef I ever fired, and I'm still firing. They still don't know. They're still in the look, I was 13 years old, so that's what 58 years ago, and they haven't learned their lesson. They should have read my book. Don't mess with his soup. Don't mess, And so that's how I grew up. And then when I ran away, eventually my life was touched by my football coach, and that's when I decided I wanted to go to Cornell, the best hotel restaurant school. I want to have my own restaurant. I want to be state champion in wrestling, and I want to be all-state in football. And I started with, there's no way I'm going to turn out with all these things,
Right.
And I just started, working hard to get better grades. And gradually my grades went up every year. My sophomore year, I played on the JV football team, did pretty good. My junior year and senior year, I was a good football player and a leader of the team. And then, like I said, I went out for wrestling and learned how to wrestle a little bit. And I wasn't a great wrestler, but I just had two moves: brute force and effing ignorance. And I just was an animal. I was tough. That's all I remember. It was tough. And I didn't have many moves, but I just, I just intimidated. I was tougher than everybody. I was just, kind of like Pete Rose was in baseball. He wasn't the fastest or smoothest. He just hustled. And that's what I did and in football too.
Yep.
So, and in grades, I got them up, got into Cornell, and actually started my own rock band. I was the lead singer to make some money, because you don't get full football scholarships at Cornell.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents' confidential statement, you got to fill out a parents' confidential statement. Your parents do, right, for financial aid, and at least back then. Well, mine was zero.
Yeah.
And the Cornell football coach, Jack Music, calls Jeep Benerick my coach, and my coach told Bear Bryant I could play for Alabama, I could play anywhere, and he'd been to all those universities and knew some of those coaches, but he knew I wanted to be in the restaurant hotel. I wanted to go to that hotel school because it was the best in the country. Well, his parents' confidential statement says zero, and they couldn't do anything. And then I found out in the library, Heinz did a scholarship, and I'm in the library, and it's $1,000. There's 4 winners, one from each part of the country, and there's one outstanding of the 4. And you fill all this out, and blah blah blah, and it'll help you get a scholarship to probably Cornell. Most of the kids that wanted, I'd gone to Cornell. Well, and then you got to write a biography or a paragraph, and they see your improvement from your freshman year to senior, so that's good. They see this, they see your extracurricular, and then tell us about yourself, And I rest these kids. Well, I live at home with my mom and dad. I got a great mom, great dad, and they've helped great, whatever they say. I tell them the story I just tell you.
Right.
I am the outstanding winner, and I got that scholarship for $1,000, and that took it over the edge. And I was the one that was the 4 that I was, whatever they call it. So now I'm in Cornell, and I could get in, and without the money, and but I worked for my meals and different things, and and some financial loans and all, because they just don't give full scholarships in an Ivy League school. So I made it through and came to Cincinnati because the guy that recruited me, headquartered out of Cincinnati, the hotel company here, and he knew me from my freshman year, and anyway, it's a long story because I didn't think he was going to hire me, because he pretty much fired me. I was feeding the football varsity training table when I was a freshman, and I was always goofing off and hanging out with the hotel employees in the kitchen, and they didn't go to school there, and just messing with them when I was supposed to be on the feeding line for the varsity football meal. And he'd find me eating prime rib with the chef at the Statler Hotel, and then, what the hell, who the hell you think of? So I never signed up for an interview with him senior year, because I figured there's no way he's going to give me a job. But my roommate and other linebacker on the football team said, "Rubes, he wants you." I said, "He's not going to offer." "Rubes, he's telling you, trust me, you need to interview with him." And I did, and I was offered the job, and he wanted me to start in Syracuse. Now I'm back in New Jersey on the Asbury Park Circle working at a Perkins. He keeps calling me. He wants me to start in Syracuse. And I says, if I go, I want to go to Cincinnati. And he said, well, why do you want to go to Cincinnati? I said, I'm a Reds fan. He said, you're a Reds fan? You're born and raised in Jersey. I said, I'm a Reds fan. And that's where your headquarters are, and that's where the Reds happen to be. So he gave in, and it was 1970, and it was August. And the riots in Asbury Park were the worst race riots ever. Springsteen left Asbury Park, went to New York. I left Asbury Park and went to Cincinnati. And it was because I was a Reds fan. And it turned out Sparky Anderson, the manager of the Reds, became like a dad to me. Sparky Anderson's first book and his final book talks about me a lot. Pete Rose and Johnny Bench become my friends, and they backed me and supported me and made my first restaurant, the Precinct, possible. Because when they invested in me, and that was the Big Red Machine, you know, and that was, you know, the biggest two stars in sports back then. And they backed me. Then we could find other people that they knew or I didn't know, but wanted to be in a restaurant with those two guys. And I'd worked for Weingarten Hammond's hotel company 11 years, and that's how that place got started in 1981. And in fact, Johnny, I was with him last night in Lexington. We were both at a fundraiser in Lexington for children's care and children's charities. And then we went over here first time we saw my new restaurant in Lexington, and we reminisced. But it was Johnny Bench, P. Rose, and these other guys, and we opened with 68 seats in a horrible neighborhood on the east end by the railroad tracks with all boarded down, rotted out houses. And the restaurant we took over had gone out of business with 52 liens. And primary interest rate was 20%, highest in America's history. Unemployment was the highest post-war. Inflation was the highest post-war, and that's why I opened my first restaurant. We've expanded it 4 times. It's called the Precinct because it used to be a police station originally in 1901. The ladies that took it over and made it into some elitist type disco and gourmet Mexican and all that, they called it Amanda after one of the daughters when they went out of business. So I took over that and changed my whole life. And those guys made it possible. You know, without Johnny and then Pete, there's no Precinct. You know, I needed them, and they just bet on the jockey, not the horse, and because the horse didn't look like a winner. It was a bad looking location, terrible, and not enough. It was just a rundown, and the place, they had like one customer a night. It was depressing. So we turned that around.
So, and you're known for perfection in everything that you do, and that's reflective in your businesses. And how do you come to be that way? And then, secondly, most importantly, how do you get people to buy into that and embrace that and seek perfection themselves in their work?
Well, what I do is I don't strive for perfection. I strive for excellence. If you strive for excellence, you'll have success. If you strive for perfection, you'll have a nervous breakdown.
Right.
You can't be perfect. Nothing's going to be perfect. I got annoyed last night at the restaurant in Lexington. Everyone's going crazy, loving the place, and they could see I'm upset. And I'm upset with something that I didn't like that I saw, and it really bothered me. I was sitting with Johnny and other people, and and I'm running around just because it was a musical thing, okay? And with our TV, we put on a show there, and it's just annoying as hell. So I wasn't looking for perfection for nothing, but I was looking for excellence. So there was dead air, the patio was packed, the lounge was packed, and it was after the fundraiser, and everybody came over, and so and I'm really, I should remind myself that everyone else is happy. It's not bothering anyone but me. So I guess last night I was looking for perfection, and I was ready to have a nervous breakdown, but I had a drink instead and a cigar. So, but and I want my employees to know, we don't want them to be, we just want them to be excellent and be the best you can be. And I have a very unconventional relationship with my employees, from dishwashers to manager. I'm me, and I want to be me, and I'll be me, and I let them be them, and and I cut up with the employees in pre-meal. We call it the pre-show, and I walk in. They might not see me for months, and then I come in and I put on my show, my routine, my cabaret. And they all relate to that because they know I got a big heart. They know we take care of them. They know we pay their insurance. No one does that in our business. I've been paying their insurance since day one. Their hospitalization since day one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, Obamacare. I don't care if Obama cares or Obama don't care or Trump cares. They get everything. They get everything. They get everything. Ruby cares, and that's what they get.
That's cool.
Mr. Ribby,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Well, we have an extensive training program. We have a manual we call The Power of We, and that's all of us. And you'll never be successful in any business unless your employees want you to be. So the first thing I got to do is make sure they want me to be successful, and it's a win-win. If I'm successful, they're successful. They're going to make more money. They're going to enjoy they just enjoy what they're doing. I mean, the videos they put out on Twitter and stuff, they're just having a great time with the guests. I did a 30th birthday, I did a 50th anniversary, one waiter said, and I did the 13th, all on the same day, and they're making people happy. And that's what we're in the business of making people happy. People don't come to our restaurants because they're hungry. They go to the refrigerator if they're hungry. They come to our restaurants to celebrate life. And that's what we want to make everyone, just enjoy that experience. We call it the Jeff Ruby experience, and like they've never seen anywhere else. And they're going to leave with more than a doggy bag. They're going to leave with a memory, and that's what we do. And our staff makes it happen. And our director of operations started with me when he was a 16-year-old busboy at the waterfront. And when I opened up in 1981, I said, I don't like the word busboy. I changed the position, the name, the title, to server assistant in 81. And now, they all internally call it SA. We need 2 more essays. How many essays? But it's server assistant. The whole industry has picked up and uses that term now instead of busboy. And I started that. I invented that because I didn't want them just thinking that all they do is bus tables. They take the bus pan, they go to the table, they clear it, take all the dirty stuff up, clear it, and then set it back up. That's a busboy. I don't want that. I want a server assistant. And I want them to be, and that first server assistant, well, we opened the waterfront in 86. It was 5 years after we used the word server assistant. And he opened the waterfront. He's director of operations now. And a lot of these employees have grown. They have grown from with us, but that's the best example I can give you. So they know, and some of them, they're just happy doing what they're doing. They don't want the headaches of management. They don't want the responsibility. They're going to come in, work 4 or 5 hours, 5 days a week, 4 days, and make $100,000 or something as a waiter in one of our restaurants. Why do I want to manage and put up with all that aggravation? And they can come in and if they live downtown, they don't even need to have a car. They just can walk. And they're waiting on. We've served everyone from Michael Jordan to the King of Jordan. From Margaret. We served Anne Margaret and Margaret Thatcher. We have everybody. I mean, all the and I've got to know a lot of them. So, and they enjoy waiting on those people, but they treat everyone as if they're, as if they're Garth Brooks and things like that. And we've had all those people, but they treat everyone like they're the most important guest. And it's all about training, the power of we and the training that we do. And it's a tough business. The restaurant business is no big thing. It's about 50,000 little things. And I saw some little things last night that drove me crazy. But no one else paid attention to them, so it didn't hurt business, but I saw it. I'm in the men's room last night, and I see there's 2 guys in there, and I'm waiting for them to get done. There's another guy in line, and I'm waiting to take a picture of the floor in front of each urinal. And the guy says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Look at this. There's supposed to be mats in front of these urinals, and there was last week, but there wasn't last night. And the floor is all wet in front of each urinal. And I want a picture of each urinal, the floor, and I send it to my director of operations I just told you about, who had just left the place, actually. He went back to Cincinnati. He worked in Lexington yesterday. He's probably back in Lexington today. And all I did was take two pictures, and he knew exactly what that was.
I wouldn't have liked to got those texts.
Yeah.
And my GM that was there last night is Mr. Ruby. I don't know what happened, but I'm firing our cleanup company. Tomorrow they're being fired. We hired a cleanup company. I said, "Well, what happened to the mats? They come from Cintas." He said, "Yeah, our Cintas guy is great, but for some reason we had mats the other day, but we don't have mats today." I said, "Well, you got pee all over the floor, mop it up." And that's the things that I got to do. That's the little things of this business,
Mm-hmm.
I got a $20-some thousand Art Deco barbershop back bar in that men's room from an antiques auction in Las Vegas. It is from 1920. The marble, the wood, and it's an old bar. Where barbers, in between each stand would have their own little stick. That is where the sinks are in that, and it's 8. We had to build that big thing out because we had to fit that thing in there. It was 18 feet long.
Wow.
And I'm doing all that, and I got barbershop poles that are, swirling around and lit up, and long ago, and I got piss on the floor in the urinals. That doesn't make sense. You got to keep the place clean and have those mats, which not all restaurants do, but we have them, and follow. But you got to go in there to find out if you got a problem in there. Luckily, I had to go to the bathroom. I found out what was wrong.
Yeah.
So most people know that your restaurants are known for superior everything, but what most people really may not know about you is your personal commitment to giving back to the communities, and as well as your supporting of that risk and foster children. How much of the adversities that you've had in your life drive your passion for giving back?
Well, it has everything to do with how I grew up, not having, parents really to raise me. But the thing with my father, real father, no one ever admitted to being my real father. So I'm the son of nobody. And I was an illegitimate kid, and my mother and I just fought so much, and she was usually had too much to drink by the time I got home in the afternoon, but in fact, it wasn't until my senior year when I became well known and getting a lot of publicity. She wants me back. She took me to court, moved back home my senior year, and the judge decided he's doing fine. He did better without you living on his own. So the judge didn't make me go back home. But what that all did, and then I had a horrible head injury in '87 in July, and I was pronounced brain dead. I was in and out of 2 comas over a month period of time. I was given a 10% chance of living. And they said if I had lived, there was only a 5% chance I would have ever come out of a vegetative state. And I lost 20% of my brain. And long story short, I lived. And, I don't have much, damage from that. As we're speaking, my left ear's got tinnitus, and it's ringing and singing and wheezing, but as we speak, and some other problems, but nothing major. And I remember going back to the hospital I had to learn how to speak English all over again. I had a speech pathologist, physical therapist. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to talk again and learn my language, and which I only know 3 languages: English, sarcasm, and profanity. I learned them back. It took a long time. So when I go back to the hospital for that, I would visit the nurses, that took care of me, that cared about me. And I saw articles up there in the paper from the Cincinnati Enquirer, Jeff Ruby's recovery, this or that. They would put articles up there. Jeff Ruby near death, whatever they would keep that as souvenirs to them because they helped me. And I said, "Where's Chris?" Chris was the kid that would bring me my flowers and my get well cards and all this and that. And Mike, I said, "Where's Michael?" And he would wheel me to therapy. And one was white, one was black. Both were 14, and both were there doing community service. I said, where are they? I wanted to say hello to them. And so Chris was at a boys detention center. He had been living with different foster parents. He had committed some crimes when he was 12, and he was put in a penitentiary. He was living in a boys' penitentiary run by the Catholic Archdiocese. And Michael, he too was doing community service. So and he was in foster home after foster home. He was abused by his supposed mother, whatever, and all this. And I went with my wife to Altarcrest, which was the boys' detention penitentiary. And I could never remember the word Altarcrest, so I just called it Alcatraz. And I said, we're going to Alcatraz. I want to meet this kid. And so they let him out to see me, come running to me like I was Santa Claus. Then we found out his history. They warned us about his history. And they only let him off campus with me if he was with me and my wife. And, we would take him to stay at our house. And Michael finds me at the waterfront in Covington, Kentucky, the floating restaurant I had. He went looking for me. This is when I said, God saved my life because he knew I would do good things for other people, and I would remember I owe God to do this, and I decided, I walked out of that hospital where you come out in a wheelchair. I'm going to give back to the community. Those kids were doing community service at that hospital. Now I'm going to do some community service, and those two I wrapped into my lives. And when we had my 70th birthday party, a fundraising for our foundation, and last year, and both Chris came up. Chris is they're in their 40s now. Chris has got 5 kids. We've hired him, and he was managing for us, but he'd been gone away a long time to Seattle or whatever. Michael is a master sergeant at Camp Lejeune with 4 kids, and these kids were 14-year-old, just deserted kids that had been abused, that had gotten in trouble, that had been victims, that had also been suspects, and their lives needed someone, and that someone was me. And now I'm looking at all the kids they got, and Master Sergeant, Michael is, and they're in their 40s,
mm-hmm.
and that's kind of how, and that's how our mission got to be the foster care program and childhood poverty, which Cincinnati's in the top 5 in the country, and where we were in my legacy and my history and my upbringing, what should I be doing to best serve where I came from and what I can relate to, and so that's essentially there's short-term and there's long-term goals for our foundation, but it has to do with childhood poverty and the foster care and orphanages, and that's where the problem, most of the kids' problems with childhood poverty start with those kids that are in foster homes and orphanages, and they're not getting the system is almost corrupt. It's a very, very, very poorly managed part of American government is the foster care system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's eager, and we met with governors. I mean, Governor Bevin of Kentucky came all the way to our headquarters in Cincinnati to help us with this foster care thing and his suggestions of what he wants to do. For a Kentucky governor to come to our offices in Cincinnati, Ohio, to meet with us, and he has incredible ideas because he's kind of into that too, helping get to the root of the problem for America. It starts with childhood, mm-hmm. and so that's what we're doing, and that's why I do it.
Well, sir, your story is absolutely amazing. We could continue on and talking about this stuff All day, for sure. It is maybe the most interesting guest we've ever had. But of course, we've got some talk about the restaurants. We're focusing on your restaurant in Louisville and as one of the great places for bourbon fans to go to. So we're going to talk more about that after the break. Okay, let's talk about the people that make these shows happen. First up is the Stave and Thief Society. Via their in-person class at Moonshine University in Louisville, Kentucky, the Stave and Thief Society is the place where you, a bourbon enthusiast, can expand your knowledge and emerge an executive bourbon steward. In 2017, I completed my executive bourbon steward certification. It's the most comprehensive bourbon certification available and connects you with an expansive network of bourbon enthusiasts and professionals. Check out the full listing of in-person and online certifications and join the society today by enrolling at staveandthief.com. Speaking of executive bourbon steward certification, the ABV Barrel Shop in St. Louis, Missouri has developed a unique partnership with the Stave and Thief Society to offer a preparatory class to assist you in getting your executive bourbon steward certification. This prep class costs only $25 and is available to take live or online via Zoom. Graduates of our class receive a coupon code good for 15% off your executive bourbon steward certification held in Louisville, Kentucky. This saves you almost $90. Additionally, you can collaborate with fellow attendees to split travel costs when you go to Louisville. If you're interested in signing up for the class, simply head over to abvbarrelshop.com and check out the classes and events page. Last but not least, we are sponsored by Neely Family Distillery. Royce Neely is the 11th generation distiller in one of America's oldest distilling families. A visit to Neely Family Distillery takes you through family history, where you can see all the artifacts and newspaper clippings through the years from this family that started distilling in America after James Neely arrived from Northern Ireland in 1740. Today, Royce Neely and his team are crafting some of the best spirits in America. Their bourbon and absinthe offerings keep winning top honors in the spirits competitions. Recently, their absinthe made history as the first platinum winner in the absinthe category at the San Francisco Spirits Competition. Neely Family Distillery is definitely a bucket list destination if you are a bourbon fan. Learn more about their spirit offerings, visiting their facility, and the awards they have collected over at NeelyFamilyDistillery.com.
Hello, this is Colonel Lee Delaney, and you're listening to the Bourbon Daily with Steve Akeley.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're here with Jeff Ruby of Jeff Ruby Steakhouse as we're focusing on some great places to dine in Louisville that are focused on bourbon. And, Mr. Ruby, you talked a little bit about the Jeff Ruby experience. And if you don't mind, kind of focus a little bit on your Louisville restaurant, because that's the one that we're featuring today, your steakhouse. Tell us a little bit about the Jeff Ruby experience there. If I was going to go there, or my wife and I were going to go there, what would it be like?
Very Art Deco. We got a chandelier that I found. It was on the Stars Network, had a 2-year series called Magic City. It was kind of like The Sopranos. It was based on true stories of the Jewish mobsters that owned all the hotels on Ocean Avenue and Collins Avenue in Miami back in the 50s. And there was a chandelier that they saw that came out of the Fontainebleau originally, and they used it in this makeup hotel as a key prop.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 15 feet in diameter. It's crystal. It's just ridiculous. And I got it. So when the series was over, I bought it and brought it into our restaurant in Louisville. Now, we had to close the restaurant for a week to put it together. And we had to take this thing apart in sections like a pie and cut it up to get it in. You don't bring the whole pie in. You got to cut them up into 12 pieces and bring each piece in and then rewire everything. But that's, and then there's a table, a big 10-top circular table under. And, there's all kinds of things. There's a scene in Magic City where the shoe shine guy is talking to the owner of the hotel. He's getting his shoe shine, but they're talking about hits and wax and this and that. And that shoe shine stand was incredible. Ostrich and mahogany and maple wood, and it was like 3 tiers up. I got that. And we put that one in Nashville. And we designed that hallway in the restrooms to fit that 8.5-foot long shoe shine stand. That's the kind of details I go to, and we're constantly, you digest the ambiance with every bite of steak and every sip of wine.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a sensory experience that's important, where people come and they can just, they feel like they're getting their money's worth because of the ambiance, and that's what they're soaking in, along with the service and the food. And I keep changing it, so it's not the same show, for the 20 years. I keep refreshing it and changing it. And sometimes I'll take something from one restaurant, put it at another restaurant. That restaurant now sees something new, and then I buy something new for the restaurant. I pull the other thing out of it, and they got something new for the price of one. I get 2 new places. But I keep rotating stuff around. But it's there's live entertainment, a horseshoe bar.
Yeah.
People on stage singing. I mean, I've had everywhere up there. I've had Toby Keith up there singing. I've had Boyz II Men up there singing. Taylor Dane, on and on and on. Joey Fatone from what you call it?
New Kids on the Block, is that him?
No, NSYNC.
NSYNC, okay.
I've had, and we got good bands, and we've Travis Tritt up there singing with me, and we have a lot of fun. I sang with Garth Brooks on stage in my restaurant in Nashville. He's never done that ever in a bar. and he got up and I said, "Let's do Lost That Love and Feeling in C." And, we did it.
He did it, huh?
Video.
Huh.
And afterwards, I was out on the patio smoking a cigar. My son Dylan comes over to me, shows me a $20 bill. I said, "Where'd you get that?" He said, "Well, he was standing with Garth's manager, Randy, I think, and he said, my dad gonna sing with Garth. Watch, I guarantee my dad's gonna sing Lost That Love and Feeling with the band with Garth." He said, "No, he's not." He says, "You don't know Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks doesn't do that." Okay. He said, "You don't know my dad. He will do it." Okay. So they bet $20, and of course I won.
Right.
And my son flagging this $20 bill in front of me. I said, "How about giving me 10? Or if I didn't do it, where would you do that?"
Yeah, you deserve to cut of that.
He says, "No deal. It's all mine."
Well, your restaurants are definitely known for their steaks, and I can attest they're probably the best I've ever had. And
Thank you.
of course, your restaurant's also, especially one here in Louisville, is my go-to place whenever I've got somebody that I want to take somewhere to just have an experience. It really is good. But, my understanding is you originally didn't want to open a steakhouse.
Yeah, when we did the first steakhouse, the first restaurant was the Precinct in 1981, and I wanted that to be almost French food and upscale, high-end gourmet, or not high, but, and there was 3 mobile 5-star restaurants in town at the time, more than any city in America. Mobile 5 stars, 3 of them. The Gourmet Room, the Pagals, and the Masonette. And I wanted to do something. I had 68 seats, but I'm putting a nightclub upstairs, where the hay used to be when it was a police patrol. There was no cars, there was horses. 1901. The hay was upstairs, the horses were downstairs. The horses is where the 68-seat restaurant is and kitchen, and upstairs I did a discotheque, and I wanted to have fine dining and fancy food. And one of the partners that we came upon said, "You got to go to this place in Dayton. It's the best steak you ever had." I said, "I'm not doing a steakhouse." And he was on me, and he's a partner. Well, we had 10 partners. I don't know if we were married yet, but I took Raquel. We got married in 82. And the Precinct opened anyway. Yes, so she was my girlfriend. So I go to Dayton, and he goes with his wife, and I said, "Man, it's a honky-tonk. A place called the Pine Club. Been there forever. And it's a honky-tonk, linoleum floor. There's down and dirty, but it was good." I said, "Man, there is no steak there was really no steakhouse in Cincinnati." And there was a couple on the river that were, kind of okay, but no. Actually, well, this is different. So I said, this is what we're going to do. But I wanted to have fine dining too. So, and back then, Morton's had opened in 81 or so, and I was at the Chicago Restaurant Show, and I'd hang out at Morton's, tip George, the maitre d', $10 to get a table. And I said, man, I like what they do. But I like the Pine Club steak better. But I want to go fancy schmancy too. So I wind up doing flaming entrees, flaming drinks, flaming desserts, filet of sole bonne femme. I did all kinds of, all kinds of fancy food plus steak. So it was more than just steak it or leave it like Morton's. And it was, and then, tuxedo captains doing tableside cooking. And then upstairs was the disco and the blood on the floor and Dino's and Thin Lizzie's, the boys are back in town. I mean, there was fights. It was ridiculous. Millionaires of Rolls Royces downstairs and all kinds of, bar traffic. And we had ball players, blondes, barflies, and blue bloods. And we had them all there. And it was a motley mix of clientele. No one's ever seen anything like it. Then, before, or since. But it became very successful. And the nightclub especially, I mean, people that they met it, that married today met there in this town. So that's, we went that route with fine dining plus steak. But we did the steak, the specs on our steaks, and the demand that we had, it's very, we're very tough to deal with because of the demands that we have from our purveyors of what we want our steaks, all the specifications that we will, will accept and what we demand, which makes it hard to get,
Mm-hmm.
So,
and the steaks are absolutely amazing. And I got to tell you, the sides at the restaurants are equally phenomenal. Is the lobster mac and cheese by far the most popular thing side that you've got? Because I absolutely love it.
I think the mac and cheese itself is the potatoes Anna. But we have a corporate sushi chef who's very good. We do sushi at just about all the restaurants, and including we have a sushi bar there. We have gigantic shrimp and raw bar.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a good culinary staff, and we have corporate culinary director too. And so the menu's got to be changed. They've got to be improved. I was there the other day, tried the chicken. It was okay. I said, we got to change it. It's not that great. And chef's got to talk to the corporate chef and, talk about some changes to it and just make it better. We got to have chicken on the menu. No one's going to order it, but we're going to have it on the menu, and it ought to be better than what it was. And it was cooked right, I told the chef, but it was just, it's not, there's too much that, too much. You didn't need this, you didn't need that. I'm like BASF. I don't make the food. I make the food better. Remember that commercial?
Of course, our audience, they love bourbons. Can you kind of talk to us about the bourbon experience that your guests can find there at Jeff Ruby's?
Well, bourbon, I mean, we go down to Woodford and they do our own barrel for us. We do our own private barrel every year with their master distiller. We take our key people. I've gone a couple times and have the Jeff Ruby Private Reserve Woodford. We've done that with other bourbons too, Jack Daniels has done that for us, and George Dickel, I think, and someone else. But to me, going to a steakhouse and not having a great bourbon is like going to an Eagles concert and they decide not to play Hotel California.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You got to have it. You don't go to an Eagles show and say, well, they decided they're not going to do a Hotel California. Well, what the hell did I come here for? That's their signature. That's their most recognizable popular song. And go to a steakhouse. Well, they don't really have a good bourbon list. They got a good wine list, but they're not into bourbon. Well, they're not playing Hotel California for me then.
Mm-hmm. I like that comparison. That's a perfect comparison for it. And when visiting any of your restaurants, one of the first things that I noticed, and I think anybody sees, is the photos that you have of all the celebrities and guests who have visited your locations in the past. And a lot of those over the years have been some very notable and famous encounters. But for yourself, what would you personally consider to be the most rewarding and memorable experience you've had with a guest?
Well, Michael Douglas, probably. I spent 2 weeks with him. He was filming here in town, and he came to our restaurant, and then we would hang out. And he's from Jersey, and both Jewish and about the same age, and we kind of related. And then he talked about his father, Kirk Douglas, and he was closer to his stepfather than his real father, Kirk Douglas, and how he could never do a movie with his dad. It would be like Ken Griffey Jr. playing for his dad if Ken Griffey was managing the team. And we got pretty deep and esoteric in his thoughts about Cincinnati, and we just. Anyway, long story short, he eventually convinced me I needed to get divorced. And that's a long story, but that would be for maybe another interview. But we had dinner with my wife and his bodyguard and his publicist, and he was the one who convinced me. About a year later, when I called him, I said, "What were you going to do? You were finishing up the conversation with me, and now I think I need to know what you were getting ready to tell me." And he told me, and it convinced me that maybe it's time to end it. And so that was, but all the time with him was really, educational, listening to him, and he had a great time, and thanked me for sent me a card thanking him for making Cincinnati's whole experience what it turned out to be. Getting on stage with Garth Brooks, which is I've sang with Toby Keith at my restaurant in Cincinnati, my restaurant in Nashville, and my restaurant in Louisville, all on stage in 3 different states, and with Toby, and that's just who am I to get away with that? And Garth Brooks never does that, but he won the Diamond Award. Garth Brooks did, and they had their after party at my place in Nashville. It was on a Monday night, and it was only his guests, a couple hundred people, and Trisha Year was with him, his wife, and she sang. But getting him on stage, I said, "Hey man," he was right by the stage talking to people. I said, "There's steps there." I said, "Come on, let's do this." I said, "If you don't know the words, they got an iPad with the words, and they do, and see, and you're going to do it." And we're singing together, and so people are videotaping it with their camera, with their phones, and he's saying, "Damn, you don't need me. You're pretty good." That's pretty good. And Toby telling me, "You can sing." He yelled out, "You can sing." Okay, to the best of. That's a lot of the fun of this business, And last night in Lexington was just, I don't know, everybody coming up to me and thanking me for coming to Lexington. We've never seen anything like this. That is and the people in Lexington are just unbelievable friendly. They are in every city, but they have waited so long for this restaurant. It was supposed to be 9 years ago, and they've never. And they're just, they want photos. They want to talk to you. They want to thank you. And they're thanking me. I said, "Well, thank you for coming to the restaurant. Because if we build it, you don't come. Where are we?" So thank you. You thanking me, but I'm thanking you for being here. The people are they make you feel like I felt about my doctor when he saved my life. Oh God, what would I do with it? They feel like, man, what would I do without you in this restaurant? It means a lot to them. It means a lot to them. Like I said, they come to celebrate life and relax and enjoy themselves and forget about life for a while, as Billy Joel would say in Piano Man. And they come to forget about life for a while, and that's what we do, and we do it differently than anybody. We put a lot of emphasis on music, entertainment, diverse menus, and strict standards on our food, and especially our meat. It just, I'm pretty thorough, but I got a good, team, and my 3 kids are in corporate now, and the reason I didn't want to expand beyond the precinct and then the waterfront was I wanted to see my kids grow. I never had a dad that saw his kid grow. To his dying day, he doesn't even know who I am. and that's my biological father. And it was more important that I don't expand and I don't grow as a company because I want to see my kids grow up. I want to be the dad I never had. And I went to their games. I went to every football practice. I coached the football team. I went to my daughter behind. She played softball. She's a pitcher. I'm behind the backstop. Like I'm calling balls and strikes. And every problem with every guidance, every teacher, whatever, I went to school to meet with them. To talk to the counselors, what they're doing wrong and all that. Well, but the funny thing about it now, when they got out of high school, now it's time to make our move because they're out of college, they're in college or whatever. And it's because of them that the company has been able to grow. And it was because of them they stunted my growth in the short term, but they made the growth possible in the long term.
Yeah.
The daughter, she's president of the company. She's running the company, not me. And Dylan and Brandon have executive roles in the company. They worked their way up. They all, did everything. They all did everything, from parking cars to washing dishes to bussing tables. So they worked their way up, and I didn't encourage any of them to get in the business. And they are the reason, ironically, that we've been able to grow, and I've been able to, settle down a little bit and not have to do so much because they've taken the bull by the horns. And we've got other good corporate people, but Brittany's reshaped the whole company and recast the whole corporate headquarters and who we're going to have and who's going to stay and who we're going to bring on to be above the person we already thought was the top person. No, she hires the VP of Human Resources for Macy's, and he wanted to be with us for less money. I mean, we've got good people, CFOs or former bankers, and human resource director, like I said, was VP of Human Resources for a couple of companies, one of which was Macy's. But so we've gotten more professionally managed and standardized things and gotten more, and we're a faith-based company. We have transitional leadership seminars, and we bring in this one guy in particular, and we get into their lives and values and religion and spiritual, and it's faith-based, and it's opened up and saved some lives. We've saved some lives.
Mr. Ruby, what do you think the future of the organization is? Are you going to continue to just try to be successful in the restaurants you have, or are you going to continue to expand and add new ones to the mix? What's going to happen?
Well, I never have a plan. God is my tour manager. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't know the next concert. God is driving my bus. He's my tour manager, and I said, "What are we doing?" God, he says, "Well, let's try Indianapolis." All right, we're doing a show in Las Vegas. We're doing a show in Lexington. We're doing the next shows in Nashville. And that's what these are, shows. These things are culinary entertainment. The restaurant business is living theater, and I let God be my tour manager. And the bus took us to Nashville. The bus took us to Louisville, Lexington. The bus took us to Columbus. We didn't have a bus when I was just in Cincinnati. Now we got a tour bus.
Right.
And two drivers on the payroll, 3 drivers on the payroll. So I don't know, but we like to stay close to our corporate headquarters where the supply lines and the ability to be, to be close to the restaurant is very important, because these other big chains, they don't do as intricate food and as diverse a menu as we do, because you can't. You have to have just guys that follow the recipe book. Here's what it is. It's simple. It's cookie cutter, and you can duplicate it and triplicate it and put it, 50 of them in the country. But we don't do that way. I don't want to be the biggest. I just want to be the best. And it's hard enough with 7 to have that kind of quality, let alone trying to be like Capitol Grill or Ruth Chris or Morton's or and have that many, which some are franchise owned, some are company owned. I would never let anyone use my name if we don't own and manage that restaurant. And it's hard. when you get into the kind of quality that I want and the experience, the Jeff Ruby experience is different than any restaurant experience. And I got that from the Jimi Hendrix experience. It was about charisma, it was about individuality, it was about finesse and skill. And that whole cabaret that we put on is you can't do that in 75 cities and expect it to be consistent, and one's good but not the other one, or this one, but you can't do that and still do what I want to do. So I have no intentions on having more steakhouses than anybody else. I just want to have the best, and I've been to some damn good ones, but I've never been to one any better than us, Yeah. And if I see something at one of them, or a regular restaurant, even if it's not a steakhouse, if I see something I like, I want to do that. Okay, I want to try to do that. We've learned when people have stolen from us, and literally stolen our manuals and use them. But you see ideas. You see, God, why can't we do that? Okay, why can't we do that? I really like that certain dish or whatever they did, or this type of service they had. Let's do that. So we pick up good ideas. We travel all over the world picking up ideas, and some that we can do and some that we can't. Some of them are in small restaurants that don't do the volume, and it's easier to do it. But it's my goal just to be the best. And if I see a place better than mine, I'll fly everybody down there and dissect that and come back and tell now what we're going to do to be as good as this place. We talk about it. Yeah. So I've never had a great meal at one of my restaurants. I always find fault with something, and that's so you don't find fault with anything when you come in.
Yep.
Well, I remember getting out of my parking lot, the precinct one day, and getting out of my car, and these people, they're entering their car. I said, "Oh, Jeff, what a great time we just." She said, "I have never had I've always had a great meal here. I don't care how many times you've been. It's always great." I said, "Well, I've never had a great meal here." And she said, "That's why mine was good." I said, "Yes, that's why yours is always great."
Well, Mr. Ruby, it was absolutely fantastic talking to you today. So it's just so exciting to hear about your business, all the great things that you've got going on, your personal history, and so much more. I think people may want to follow their journey. Is there anything you want to share, whether it be a website, social media, anything like that?
Well, jeffruby.com
okay.
has the history of the restaurants. And I don't know anything about websites, or I'm not a tech guy, but
sure.
It's a pretty good website, which I have nothing to do with. Then you can Google Jeff Ruby. There's a lot about me, from all the times I've, the trouble I've been in, the things I've done. It hit the news again yesterday when this Drew Peterson attorney in Chicago was disbarred. I was involved with that Drew Peterson trial. He killed his two wives, a sergeant in Bolingbrook, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got thrown in jail for that, and it was jail time well spent. But that's back on now. So it's amazing stuff. That's in my book, by the way. We had to wait on my book until that whole thing with Joliet. That was Joliet Bound by Eric Clapton and Wynton Marsalis. The guy goes to Joliet and winds up in jail. Well, that was me. I went to Joliet and wound up in jail. So that was that chapter. That's called Joliet Bound. But you go to that. You go to @TheRealJeffRuby is my Twitter, and I've changed the meaning of Twitter. Then people think there's nothing on Twitter like it, which there isn't. But I share advice. I share tips. Mm-hmm. I did a business tip today. I do kid tips almost every day. I do parent tips, and then a lot of interesting stories and pictures, with celebrities, things that people want to be interested. Jeff Ruby @TheRealJeffRuby, but jeffruby.com is the website, and you'll see photos of the restaurants and the food and everything else.
Excellent.
Well,
all right.
I will definitely say, if you're not following Mr. Ruby on Twitter, you actually must, because I enjoy it every single day.
I am. I definitely am. So yes, I enjoy it too. So you do a great job.
Well, thank you. And And somebody would, what's your favorite drink? I said, my favorite drink is my next one. So I think I'm gonna have it right now.
We're right there with you. We got to get a copy of that book too. So I assume that's still out on Amazon.
Yeah, they're at each restaurant. They're
Okay.
on Amazon. Actually, the proceeds, every dollar of profit goes to feed the children out of Oklahoma City. So everything ties in with with what I feel is important to me to do to contribute and to give back. So even the book. So, but it's quite a book.
Okay.
It's just a book.
Well, I'll pick up a copy. I may wait till I get the restaurant because I want to get an autographed copy. So I'll do that.
Great.
All right, Jeremy, we'll wrap it up real quick. If you don't mind, just tell us where people can find you.
Well, you can find me 6 times a month over on one of the other shows here at the ABV Network. That's The Bourbon Show. You can also find me writing on the Bourbon Zeppelin, as well as on Instagram and Twitter at Jeremy Shell.
For me, I'm an easy guy to find at Steve Akeley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website, steveakeley.com, but we've also got the company website, abvnetwork.com. If you want to listen to our shows, read our blogs, check out Bourbon Zeppelin, and so much more, abvnetwork.com. We always ask you to give us a 5-star review. It helps new people find the show. And finally, if you like what we're doing, head over to patreon.com/the ABV Network and check that out. Mr. Ruby, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for spending time with me.
Absolutely. For our audience, we'll have a brand new show for you guys tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Until then, take care, everybody. See you.
Peace.
Before we let you go, let's talk about one last thing, the ABV Barrel Shop in the St. Louis community of Arnold, Missouri. The ABV Barrel Shop is focused on a couple of things. First of all, single barrels. We are the place where single barrels live. We go to distilleries, taste through the whiskey, select the best barrel, and have it shipped to our store where we present it to you, our customers, by allowing you to try before you buy. We're also known for the classes that we have in our education center in the store, as well as the events we have with industry professionals from the bourbon business. If you're in the St. Louis area, please come by and visit us at 6 Fox Valley Center in Arnold, Missouri. Or at a minimum, at least sign up for our email and text distribution so you know exactly what's going on in our shop over at abvbarrelshop.com. This is Steve Akeley, owner of the ABV Network, signing off. We thank you for listening to our programming and truly appreciate your support.
The Bourbon Daily is part of the ABV Network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.